Konami has been on a roll lately with their revivals of some of their most influential works. We really mean influential, as Metal Gear Solid 3 and Silent Hill 2 are some of the best of their respective genres. We have reviews of those games on the channel if you want to check those out too. But what about the Castlevania fans? When are we gonna get that Dracula-style revival? Especially now that the franchise has more people looking into getting into the series, thanks to the TV shows, awesome collabs, and just being plain famous in gaming. It also helps that its legacy lives in so many of the good games we enjoy today. That's kind of what we wanted to talk about with you guys. If you're trying to scratch that gothic, medieval, dark fantasy side-scroller action that's likely to be a Metroidvania, we got you covered. Record of Lodoss War, Deedlit, and Wonder Labyrinth. This game really wears its Symphony of the Night influences on its sleeves, which is quite surprising given that this game already belongs to a long-running franchise that's almost as old as Castlevania. Team Ladybug has been known for creative Metroidvania twists of licensed media, and this time they're giving it a shot with the Record of Lodoss War. Deedlit in Wonderland puts players in the shoes of the titular heroine Deedlit, who awakens in a mysterious labyrinth filled with what seems to be her past foes and companions. The game tells players what they need to know about the lore at the start of the game, which is good for those who are worried about knowing nothing about the series. All you have to know is that playing as Deedlit will remind you a lot about Alucard. From that floaty turnaround, smooth long hair, and after images, Symphony of the Night fans will feel at home playing this game. What makes this game unique is that it also has this Ikaruga inspiration with its spirit system, as Deedlit can switch between elemental alignments to not only deal different elemental attacks, but to also negate damage from the corresponding element she's on. Constantly switching between fire and wind forms becomes integral to dealing with boss encounters, since it allows Deedlit to refill her health bar once players have built up the opposing element's power levels. Record of Lodoss War, Deedlit in Wonder Labyrinth is a great choice for anyone looking to scratch that Symphony of the Night itch outside of Castlevania, but also provides stylish and strategic twists due to its unique systems. Hollow Knight Silksong, arguably one of the most anticipated Metroidvanias of our generation, and it's finally here. We even have a review on it if you want a more detailed look at the game and what we think of it. It may look like Hollow Knight at first, like something of an expansion, which was kind of the initial idea for it. But it quickly opens up to be a different beast while greatly expanding on its shared aspects with the previous game. Taking place after the events of Hollow Knight, Silksong now puts players in the shoes of Hornet, who was a significant character in the original game. As much as we'd recommend the original to anyone, you don't have to play it to enjoy Hornet's journey through the Kingdom of Farloom. Also, Hornet isn't a silent protagonist like the one in the first game, so you'll find it to be more engaging when it comes to dialogue. It also helps that playing as Hornet feels closer to playing as Alucard more than the knight from the original game ever did. From backdashes to diagonal aerial attacks, it would be easy to get the impression that Team Cherry may have been paying homage to its Metroidvania roots. Beyond featuring the responsive controls that made Hollow Knight so well received, Silksong offers more ways to shake up how you play. Crests modify your attacks, and Silk skills offer new abilities. Tools, in particular, give off Castlevania-style power-ups that also add something to the experience every time. Narrative themes of ascending the kingdom means that it will reflect in the level design as well. Naturally, you'll see an increase in verticality and platforming, of which your character is built for thanks to the various new maneuvers now available to her. There is a lot more anyone can say to recommend Hollow Knight Silksong, but don't take our word for it. Go ahead and play it! Blasphemous. Closer to Souls than Metroidvania, but Metroidvania nonetheless, Blasphemous and its sequels are games we highly recommend. Just as the name implies, the game offers a dark and often eerie vibe with tons of twisted religious imagery and symbols. The stunning pixel work ain't joking around, as this game is one of the more visually graphic entries on the list. You play as the Penitent One, who is the sole survivor of the Silent Sorrow Massacre, and is now trapped in an endless cycle of rebirth. With the power of the Sword of Guilt, the Penitent One will embark on a quest to free the land of Custodia from a curse known as the Miracle. It doesn't help that Custodia's overwhelming faith powers the very curse that plagues the land. Every pain of the soul is tangible within everyone and everywhere, whether in the form of a blessing or a punishment. This also being inspired by Dark Souls, players will have to deal with punishing enemy creatures through the use of frequent dodge maneuvers, forgiving parries, and flashy sword attacks that are made satisfying due to slick animations. You can also customize your build by discovering relics, rosary beads, prayers, and sword hearts that give you new abilities and stat boosts. spicing up the combat even more. Platforming is secondary, but it's still interesting, emphasizing a heavier and slower form of it as you traverse the perils of Custodia. Of course, one of the biggest highlights of Metroidvania Souls-likes are its boss fights, and Blasphemous features gigantic ones that will really make you feel like it's hell on earth. The graphics do them justice. They're as terrifying as they look, and the penitent one will likely lose a limb or two before you beat them. Don't worry, it's actually quite fair despite the difficulty, making it all the more rewarding when you get the hang of their patterns. Momodora, Reverie under the Moonlight. Momodora Reverie Under the Moonlight is the fourth entry into the Momodora series, and is the one that leans closer to a Castlevania vibe due to a larger emphasis on gothic horror elements compared to the past 3 games. Set 300 years prior to the events of the first Momodora, the story follows Kaho, a priestess from the Loon village, who is investigating a strange plague corrupting their village. She ventures to seek an audience with the queen, hoping her power would help in saving not just her village, but also the entire land. The series has come very far since its initial release in 2010, with each new game being more polished and expansive than the last. Momodora 3 in particular shifted the game's level design philosophy to a more polished and familiar Metroidvania style of exploration, while still retaining the linear style progression of the first game. Similar to past entries, the visuals of Reverie Under the Moonlight leans into the 8-bit nostalgia, with character art giving that cute chibi art style. Just like with Momodora 3, the game features non-linear Metroidvania style gameplay, but it has this certain simplicity to it, reminiscent of an NES game, and a shorter story compared to its contemporaries. Its Souls-like inspirations are also apparent, having bonfire-style checkpoints that reset enemies in the world, and a challenging difficulty that can be adjusted to the player's preference. Ender Lilies, Quietus of the Nights. Ender Lilies, Quietus of the Nights is quite unique in that you're not building the weapons yourself in order to fight. You play as Lily, who isn't as strong on her own, but is able to summon the spirits of deceased knights to fight for her. As you progress through the game, you gain the abilities of warriors you've purified, which can drastically affect how you traverse and fight. Lily is the last surviving descendant of the White Priestesses. In a world where a mysterious reign of death has transformed all living things into undead known as the Blighted, Lily must journey over Land's End to unravel the mysteries of the kingdom and uncover the true nature of the Blighted phenomenon. Interesting 2D art style is something that starts to sound more cliche as we get into this video. But it's still true! Ender Lilies boasts clear-cut and polished visuals, especially with how it creates this beautiful contrast between the blighted fantasy ambience and the illumination that Lily emits. Not to mention the flashy and colorful attacks when she calls about her protectors. Oh, and the music? Yes, the music. Definitely amazing. If you want a Metroidvania that goes hard on ambience, you cannot go wrong with Ender Lilies. Salt and Sanctuary. There's been a ton of 2D Souls-likes in this list, but this one takes the cake for really taking inspiration from the original Dark Souls. Salt and Sanctuary nails the Dark Souls experience, not just in terms of mechanics, but also in its emotional highs and lows as players take on this harrowing journey. Despite the slower combat, heavier platforming, and solemn moments of exploration with no map screen, there's also a big part of this game that's also very reminiscent of Symphony of the Night. From the way the character moves to the world design of interconnected tunnels, staircases, and shafts. The game starts with you stowed away on a ship that suddenly gets ambushed, killing off the entire ship's crew. Upon defeating, or not, the ambushers, a giant kraken wrecks the ship that then drifts onto a mysterious island. Now, why do we need to go through the trouble of fighting things on the island? Turns out there was a princess aboard the ship, and it's now your quest to find her and get the hell out of the island. You discover more sinister secrets about the island as you progress, like how there are 2 types of humans, Saltborn and Lightborn, or how a nameless god is taking over the island, and that the princess may not be as she seems. Given the game's inspirations, it's only fitting that its visuals lean into the dark fantasy feel, with darker contrasts of colors leading to an eerie atmosphere that permeates throughout the entire experience. Again, we know that sounds cliche, but Salt and Sanctuary does the 2D Kingdom of Lordran vibe in Dracula's castle really well. There's a diversity of gear and abilities to acquire. Swords, spears, daggers, hammers, and even more range options like crossbows and guns. You can even have a magic build that uses a staff. All that alongside a neat progression system for your character and gear. It's a mashup of Dark Souls and Castlevania on so many levels, but don't let that stop you from giving this deep and well thought out game a shot. Bloodstained Ritual of the Night. Of course, we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about Koji Igarashi's comeback. Bloodstained Ritual of the Night is the spiritual successor to Castlevania. It's all here: non-linear platformer exploration, items and power-ups that will open up new areas, demon castles, and an 18th century European setting that screams Castlevania. The story centers around Miriam, who is scarred by an alchemist curse that slowly crystallizes her body. Her nature as a shardbinder means that she was forcibly fused with demonically charged crystals. She wasn't alone in this, as the alchemist did this with a whole bunch of civilians to use as sacrifice in order to summon demons as a deterrent. But it backfired and caused the destruction of the Alchemy Guild and a big portion of England. Miriam awakens from a decade-long slumber and finds out that the other surviving shardbinder, Jebel, has summoned demons to seek revenge against the alchemists. To save herself and all of humanity in the process, she must journey to stop Jebel and banish the demons before they destroy England, which conveniently means having to travel to a demon-infested castle. How familiar? Fortunately, being a shardbinder means Miriam can wield a ridiculous amount of demonic abilities, Castlevania style. Bloodstained Ritual of the Night is a worthy successor to Symphony of the Night. Arguably the best choice if you want to go back to the gothic roots of this now colorful Metroidvania genre. That's it for today. We hope you guys enjoy these recommendations to get that fantasy Metroidvania feel you might be looking for. We're sure there's plenty more of these out there, so if you know a hidden gem out there that fits just as well as the stuff we talked about, please let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, guys. If you want more gaming news, updates, and deep dives, don't forget to subscribe to our channel.